every time I go to meetings and marketing events and sitting down with families and walking them through a really difficult season of their life, I feel like I'm not even qualified to be here. Like, what are your credentials? I'm like, I don't know if I really have any. But that is a lie. And Satan puts that in my ear. And I know that God has given me a gift for being with people and people in pain.
What is up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of No Longer Nomads. I've got an awesome guest here today. And, we've been talking about this back channel before the call, just this world that we live in where we do feel like we can be imposters, and we feel like as dads, we have this responsibility now, and are we ready for it? We're in the middle of parenting, and are we ready for these responsibilities that we have? And so I've got an awesome guest today, a good friend of mine. His name is Kendall. Kendall, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? I'm stoked to be here. Josh, it really is an honor. So thanks for letting me be a part of this, dude.
Of course. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days.
Yeah. So again, my name is Kendall. I've been in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So New Mexico, it's in the United States, guys, whoever's listening.
Not Mexico.
My wife and I, we've been here she's lived here for a while, but we've been married for 7 years. We have 3 boys. I really love being outside. If I can stand on it sideways down a mountain or on a ramp, I'm game. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, and an entrepreneur in a sense. I run a home healthcare agency in New Mexico, so working in senior care. And then when I'm not doing that, I also run a nonprofit with some other leaders here in Albuquerque, where we try to connect high school students in the career that they want to be in, right? So trying to help them find purpose and meaning and just building the right connections. That's really what life is kind of about. So yeah,
that's awesome, man.
That's what I'm up to these days.
Nice. Well, I do remember when you had us over for dinner, this was during the pandemic, and you had a little, actually it was not a quarter pipe. I think in my mind it was a full pipe, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
And so you're like, hey, you should drop in. And I used to skate. I grew up snowboarding. I've always loved, snowboarding, going out, doing all that stuff. And you gave me full pads, helmet, all that. And I remember sitting on that. I sat there for probably, you get in your head, I sat there for probably 20, 30 minutes.
It had to be 30 minutes, but man, you did. I mean, you go full bubble boy, but you went send. And then we're also in our, late 20s at that time, right? We're in our late 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's just gnarly. But it's cool that you picked it back up. I will say this about Josh, everybody listening. First one on first day to drop in, Josh Doyle.
Oh man, well, thank you. That was fun. And for those listening, it was definitely not a quarter pipe. It was a half pipe, or it was a full. No, I'm kidding. It was a quarter. And it's so funny. I look at it, and I step off of it. I'm like, man, that is so like it's. I used to do this all the time. Man, you get up there, you're starting to think in your head and all that, and
yeah, you get in your head, you can't get out of it. So
exactly. Well, man, I'm so pumped to have you in the show. One thing we've been talking about a lot lately is just this feeling of imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. This feeling of, do I have what it takes? And I know I'm not alone in that feeling. I know that you're not. We've had many conversations about this, as our role as husbands, as dads, and even like you and me that love business and so our coworkers, what are those relationships like? And am I the right fit? Is it, again, that imposter syndrome can creep up in so many different areas of our life. So, with that, I think the enemy can really attack us and can really make us believe the lies that we aren't good enough. And so you and I know we've talked about this, but what are some things that you want to share? Like, do you feel that way, that imposter syndrome? Are there lies that you're believing that you have to constantly, correct?
100%, Josh. If I had social media, it would probably be like my picture, little bio, maybe like imposter. That's what it would say underneath that. Like, none of this, it's good, but it's not that great. It can do half, so. But really, I think there's like 3 lies that I am fighting and having to take to the feet of Jesus like every single day. It's the lies that, at least in my family, that everything has to be perfect, and not by my standards, but maybe someone else's standards, somebody else's way that they parented. Maybe it's, I think, yeah, in parenting, you know, like things have to be perfect. That it's my kids all have to be healthy. They all have to like the things that I like. There's just this level of imposter in it, and so it's a lie that I know that every single day I'm going against it. And the second one I think would be like in my work. There's this lie, and maybe less imposter. I never feel qualified to be leading the team that I have. Right, I have about 150 team members that work with me here in Albuquerque. Hundreds of connections in the community, and every time I go to meetings and marketing events, and sitting down with families and walking them through a really difficult season of their life, I feel like I'm not even qualified to be here. Like, what are your credentials? I'm like, I don't know if I really have any. But that is a lie, and Satan puts that in my ear, and I know that God has given me a gift for being with people and people in pain. So I've signed up quite literally for the pain of people. And the third one, I think, is just, you know, you and I have felt this as dads and as young dads. It's just in relationships, feeling that actual imposter syndrome when you're sitting down with maybe a Paul in your life. You know, if you're a Timothy, I feel like I've not done a good job. Like if you're writing a letter to Corinth, you're saying some things like, well, he's okay. He doesn't have this whole, you know, there's just this level that I'm like, man, I don't belong at this table or in this career or with this family. Like, God, why are you so good to me? I don't deserve this, which we don't, honestly. But yeah, so those are probably like the three lies I think of right off the bat that came to my mind.
Yeah. So what about in work that you know, you mentioned, gosh, I don't have credentials, or in your mind, you think I'm not qualified to do this? Because I feel that all the time in work. I'm like, man, I think there could be people, and they say leadership is such a lonely place, right? Because there's so many people that can look at you and go, gosh, I'd be doing it this way or this way. And so leadership is lonely, you know, like when you're leading, it can be a lonely spot. There's a lot of people that can say, gosh, I could be doing this better, or I would not do it this way. But what are some ways what are some ways in workplace for you?
Yeah. So to your point, it is so isolating, and it can be so lonely. So I think it's important to have community. Like, you've got to have a community. You have to have a Paul. So if anybody listening to this that is like, man, it's so isolating. Nobody knows what I'm going through. Nobody's experiencing the pain I'm experiencing. Go talk to someone that's 10 years ahead of you, and maybe we're in a similar field. Because I can tell you right now, they're going to tell you, like, yeah, it's really, really hard. But a few things that I have found that in work specifically is that if I stay in a safe space, if I'm staying in that safe space, then our company's not growing. And it's not all about growth, but I think that God wants us to be doers and to be able to make things with our hands, and to really, what's the word I'm looking for? To steward well. God wants us to steward well. And I think it's not in a safe place, and it's not just in a flourishing place. There is, you have to have a balance of control and then vulnerability. So you just can't live, if I just live in control, that's a miserable life. Talk about isolation. I don't think I would sleep at night. If I thought I could control the outcomes, my goodness, which I can't. So living in a vulnerable space of trusting my team members, breathing life into them, talking about Jesus to them, finding purpose in that, looking for identity in that, because nothing else is going to give you purpose and meaning. I mean, it will for a season, but man, it runs out real quick. Those wells run dry. So so I think there's just a balance, Josh, in work of having a community. I think that having a mentor, looking for someone 10 years ahead of you, and I still haven't figured it out. Everybody's listening. Like, I still have a mentor, and we still meet on a very regular basis. I call him all the time. And I never just like went up to like, hey, be my mentor. It was more of like, hey, dude, can I get coffee with you? I love just pick your brain. You know, so having that's been really, really good for me. And then finding that balance of control and vulnerability, and knowing that the creator of this entire universe has got me. He's brought me this far. So again, I have to tell myself and fight that lie still every single day. Because in my mind, I'm like, when is this all going to just go away? Like, there's no way I'm qualified to do this.
And yeah, one thing I picked up on what you're saying is vulnerability, is so key. And it's so hard to be authentic as a man right now and
Hmm.
open up and share what you're feeling. And what does that look like for you? Are you a person that struggles with that? Are you a person that when you are vulnerable, man, you like, I do say this, when people are really opening up, they're inviting you to their holy ground, right? They're opening
Yeah.
up their pain, their whatever they're going through, their shortcomings, they are opening that up to you. And so I heard a quote released recently that I think is really good. Men, when we get together, when we talk about our strengths, we build competition. And when we talk about our weaknesses, that's when we build community. And I think that that's so key for what we're, for men. I know if I'm talking about things that I've done well, automatically you can see another guy's wall going up and up. And then, they're thinking that it's a threat. Like, not all the
What
time,
have
right?
I done well? Let
Obviously
me
you want
think
to do it
about
with
this. I've done stuff
humility.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you talk about your weaknesses, your failings, it hits a different level with other men that are like, shoot, I feel the same way. So
In my office, it is, there's a lot of females that work in my team. So vulnerability, you do have to be careful. There's definitely a point of overshare and invulnerability. So you got to keep a healthy balance. I think it's just being real. If I'm the boss and I show up every day saying like, hey, my life is perfect, everything's great, it's all wonderful, that's a different level. And if I come in maybe oversharing, just like, my wife and I are fighting again. Do you want to, like, that's, I think that'd be an overshare. Being real, like, hey, I'm really tired. My kids were up all last night, guys. I might be a little bit short with you today. And it's not personal. I've had a rough few days. The business is in a tight spot right now. We're figuring it out. That's that level of vulnerability. And even I think one of the cool things that we do for my business, and we're not a Christian organization per se, but I'm a follower of Jesus. And so we pray every week. And I make it a point to pray for people that are in pain, and that are hurting. And so we try to be, I think because of that, there's a pretty open vulnerability piece here within my
yeah,
organization that helps out. So
that's cool. So
yeah.
tell the listeners a little bit about what you do for work, and so they may be thinking, what
Yeah.
what what does that look like day to day when you're praying with other people, and not
Yeah.
even just praying. What does day to day stuff look like?
Dude.
What does Kendall
Yeah.
do?
So I run and I can share it, Visiting Angels. We're based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I hire caregivers to go into homes and take care of the sick, dying, and vulnerable people that are really in their last days. And we hire these caregivers that are typically low income. So trying to help them create stability, it can be really, really difficult. So I have an office staff of 9 people, and they all, I have scheduling, hiring, quality assurance, even have a life coach on staff that helps meet and pray with care pros. So it's pretty open-ended, but my role specifically for the listeners out there is I do a lot of the signups. So I go meet with families that are in end-of-life hospice, trying to figure out, does dad have dementia or is he just getting a little forgetful? And then help them navigate what's the best next step. What's going to be the most sustainable thing for our family? Is it aging here in home or going to a facility? Should we get on hospice? Should we get skilled nursing? So I'm really just a care navigator.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's. So one thing I want to hit, I think, would be another good thing to talk about is just the control that we feel as men, right? And
Oh, yeah.
how it's so easy to want to control things. And when things don't go well, let's talk in our marriage, right? Marriage and parenting. Let's use those
Dude.
as examples. So control, things don't go well. Of course, guys listening out there today go, man, I feel like there's many times I want to control everything, but you can't control those variables. And kids have a way of humbling you, I mean, like no one can.
Yes.
And
Preach.
then so what does that look like for you? I know that's one of the lies that we believe is we've got to control everything. We look at the other dads out there, it looks like on the surface level they're killing it, but maybe they're going through the same thing. So what does that look like, control with you and some of the lies you believe there?
Yeah. So control with the families and my wife, and I think our biggest. I'll just share I think our biggest fight it's time, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, when are you going to be home? What time are you going to? There's this this struggle for control there. And I think there's this, as fathers and as men, I think we feel this responsibility to providers. And so it's this level of like, well, I have to be able to do all this. If I can't do this, I can't provide. So, so it's this real struggle of like, yes, I want to be home. I want to be present with my kids. But man, it can be, I'm sure you feel this too, Josh. You can get done after maybe podcasts, marketing, connecting with people for your trips to Israel. It's being like, man, I'm just cashed for the day. I have like zero energy to be a dad, where you would love to give 100% here, there, and there. But man, you feel like you're giving 70% across the board. So I think that would be the lies, is that like you feel like you can do that. And I don't think that God's built us that way. And I think that the world that we live in, it's almost demanding that of us. So I think that God's called us to be men and to say, like, actually, I have boundaries. Like, no, I don't do this after 4 o'clock. This thing can take me away from my family in 30 minutes, and it can take me away for the rest of the night, right? I can always find work. I can find something to do. So I think, and I'm not trying to get away from your question. So I think the biggest thing for me is like control is really tied to time. And so how do I make the most of that time with my family? And then to your point about other families and other parenting experiences, and maybe other men experience this, your own upbringing, right? So your parents and what you think your parents expect of you when you're parenting. I mean, I'm sure other people have felt this, where your parents are watching you discipline your kids in whatever manner. You're like, he normally doesn't act like this, So just because he's here with you guys. So there's this level of like, we have this imposter of like, I have to be the dad that you were or that he is, because that's the right way. When actually it's like, no, God, my son the great thing about all of us, we're just all so different. All of my boys, I have 3 boys, Everett, Rudy, and August, and I love those dudes to death. And they're so cool, and they're in each of their own ways. But one's really quiet, one's kind of shy, one's a firecracker, So they're all going to be a little bit different. And our family upbringing is going to be a little bit different. There's some values that I can take away from my parents that I can instill in what we're doing. But just like your relationship with Jesse, my relationship with Juliet's going to look different than anybody else's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So good. Man, I like that a lot. So, what else there? What else would you say? So control, time is a big thing. I know when I come home and, man, there's so many times, and you actually talked about this. Our kids are pretty good at picking up that our phone, our box can be more important than them. And so to the listeners out there, I'm sure many like myself and you, we've talked about this a lot. Like, man, how do we be distraction free and give them our time? Like you said, like after 4 p.m., putting boundaries up, I'm going to hang with my family. I think that's great. Are there any other, practical tips that you would give to the audience? Because I do think, man, that my kids, when they want to see me, they want to look me in the eye when I'm talking to them and I'm looking at my phone, like you're not even treating them as a human. You're just ignoring them. And hey, not trying to call people out. If anything, I do that all the time, and I'm working my tail off not to do that. But what's some ways for you that you found effective to spend and focus on your family?
Yeah. So there have been, I think a good is, and I think your wife doesn't have to be a cook if you're listening to this, but man, sharing a meal together and then having healthy boundaries, because technology, it's not going away, right? They're talking about putting chips on the side of our heads soon. So, this is not going anywhere, but having healthy boundaries and saying like, hey, like this is what we do in our family, and making it, even if you have to, at our home, we have a little stone as you walk into our home, and we have an RO box now too, but we had a stone that we used to that was where our phones went. And that was kind of our anchor point. And there was some symbolism to it, right? Because this is like, nope, we put down our stones and we go eat dinner together. So sharing a meal is really, really, it's just so important, right? And having conversations with kids. And then if you are on your phone, because we are providers, at times I will have to work. There are times, especially in senior care, this doesn't turn off.
Sure.
When Susie's passed away and the family has no one to get a hold of, or our phone system's down, I'm very clear with my kids that, hey, I am on a work call and I will be off in the next 15 minutes, and putting actual timelines on it. So my kids understand that. So like dad's got a healthy relationship with his phone. That's not going to keep going on into the evening, right? Like in 15 minutes, dad can play, tag out, or we can play red light, green light, or we can do whatever you want to do. Yeah. But trying to establish healthy routines and then making sure that you and your spouse are on the same page about it. I think the cool thing about that, Josh, is that J-Bomb, Juliet, my wife, is really on me about like, no, this is what we do in our family. So it's good having a teammate because you can easily get distracted and sucked. I mean, these things are just so distracting, and it's so easy to find stuff.
For sure. Oh, yeah. They're so addictive, man. I mean, and they're built that way, right? You know, to scroll. Yeah. And like you said, most of the people listening, there's work out there always, right? Like you could pick up your phone and there's still work to be done. So it's just a matter of putting boundaries. And also that's good too. Like it goes both ways, you know, like the kids need to know, hey, I'm sorry, daddy needs to do this right now. This is important for work. That's also very important. And so for the listeners, what's the RO box? I've got one. You've got one. We love it. Tell them a little bit about the RO box. We're not a sponsor, but I would love to.
Might as well be. I mean, come on now. The RO box, if you don't have one, you should get one. It is quite literally a lunchbox with charger cords. So you can put your phones in it. It keeps track of the time your phone is out of your hands. So it's almost a benefit to keep your phone out of your hands. So J-Bomb and I will, compare times for that week, like who had their phone in the RO box the most. So it becomes a sense like a competition. So it was created to give you back your time. These things, I think 5 billion people or 7 billion people on the face of the earth, anybody can access you through this phone. So whenever you put it down and have a conversation with someone, you're telling them they're more important than everybody else on the face of the earth.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
RO box, check it out.
RO box. My kids love it. And actually, if we're watching TV or something, I got my phone out, River will come up and be like, Daddy, can we put your phone in the box? Put it in the RO box. Like, okay.
That's
cool. You're right.
That's cool.
It's incredible. It's a great tool just to spend more time with your family and to actively, like, I'm putting my phone there. I don't care about anything coming in for actual bit. I'm just going to focus and be with family. And I've loved it. Actually, the longer it's in the box, the less I feel the pull to constantly pull out of my pocket and scroll or just, whatever. I just feel that connection to my phone, like slowly get disconnected, which is a good thing.
This is embarrassing, but I'll share with the listeners that so I don't have social media. I have Facebook Messenger. I do have a LinkedIn actually. So I guess that's social media, but I just feel the need to go and I just go look through photos sometimes, I just scroll just to feel, or I'll go check ESPN like 60. I don't even have the app, but I'll go check it on a browser. So it's just funny. Like you said, these things are set up just be like, I wonder what photos I have in here I haven't looked at in a few years.
Oh yeah. Sucked right in there.
Yeah.
Man. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so the RO box, it's been a game changer. In fact, I bought one in 2 years. I bought one for everybody in my office. It's been really transformational for me. It's like, hey, what I'm going to give you guys? The gift of time with your families.
That's so good.
Yeah, so it's funny.
And it is transformational. It really is. All right, man. So let's keep talking about this. This is something I think is another topic we could hit that listeners would be feeling, going through, experiencing imposter syndrome in our relationships, even with our spouse. I'm not good enough, right? So let's zoom in there a bit with our spouses. Like, are there times for you that you just feel like, gosh, I don't think I'm good enough to be, I'm not the husband maybe that she thought she married at the altar certain time, not all the time, but there may be moments where you're like, gosh, I wish I could live up to my own standard. I wish I could live up to God's standard. And this isn't to like put a spotlight on you, but what are there some ways that like you feel that imposter syndrome? I'll share as well, because I know that men listening feel that as well.
Dude, well, yeah, that's so funny because I've said that before. I've actually said that out loud where I'm like, I don't deserve you. I'm just such a mess.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I mean, if you're a follower of Jesus, like what we deserve is death. So like, I think acknowledging that's really important. And so I've been blessed with a wonderful woman. She's an amazing mom and wife, and she's a better friend than I've ever had. And she's really quick to call out that lie. She's really quick. So having a friend's like, yeah, you had a crappy day, bro, but you're not a terrible person.
Yeah.
And none of us deserve anything. Like we deserve death.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the cool things is having that, not necessarily a teammate. You're not always going to get along with your spouse. And I appreciate that she'll say things like, it was a bad hour. It wasn't a bad day.
Yeah.
It was a bad evening. It's not a bad week. It's not a bad life, but we did have a bad last 2 hours.
Yeah.
Our oldest had a breakdown. We were on a walk, and all the neighbors are watching. So things like that, where it's like, yeah, that was a bummer, but yeah, it's so. To answer your question, having that teammate and that advocate with you, it's really important, and I think it does stem from like being in the Word and like being in a relationship with Jesus. And if your identity is not, if it's not in Jesus, it's going to be tied in other things, and you'll look for fulfillment in that. And so, I love, and it's always encouraging to me to see my wife every morning, and I'm sure your wife does the same. Maybe she does it in the morning, but come out, she's reading her Bible and digging into the Word. So it's just it's encouraging, it's inspiring even. So having that spouse, and then because it encourages me to do it too. So I actually have a cousin that's brought me into a Bible reading plan. Will, who was like, dude, we got to be in the Word, man. I was like, yeah, we do. It's because there's so many things out there that can influence us these days. So, but back to your question about imposter syndrome with spouse, I think it's just the fact of feeling too busy. They can feel our stress, right? They know when we're like, hey, money's getting tight. Like, are we good? It's like, yeah, it's good, but it's getting hard. Or, so it's like, you deserve so much better. And if we were that same knucklehead, Josh, that they had married, 7-8 years ago, like that wouldn't be good,
That's right.
I just don't feel Andrew. Yeah, it's just funny.
Exactly, man.
Let me hear your story though about you and your imposter syndrome with Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Juliet says. Like that was a bad hour. That was a bad couple hours. That does not define us. That does not define what we have built together. Mm-hmm. Because I think, like, even for the listeners out there, it's so easy to go from A to Z when there's tension, when there's conflict, to just go, things aren't going well and they won't go well, and mm-hmm. Shoot, you add kids to the mix and it just, I mean, little things, little stressors become really big issues. Yeah. And I think that's so key to say, hey, that was a bad hour. That was a bad couple hours, not things aren't going well, I think it's so easy to jump to that conclusion. And I think a lot of people do, like my wife and I, gosh, we just don't get along. It's like, well, I do think that I can fall into that trap. And so there's been times where we've been arguing or had tension over something. And early on in our marriage, it could last a day or so, or even more, and just like our egos would get in the way. And it's hard to seek reconciliation. It's hard to seek, like, let's get back on the same page, because you want to I want you to say sorry first, or I don't even want an apology. I just want to stay in my zone right now. Yeah. And it's so easy to do that. As we've gotten further in our marriage, it's like we can now just go like, gosh, you know what? We need to seek and we don't say this, but I do think that it's important to seek reconciliation. Put your ego down, if it hurts your feelings, call it out like, hey, that hurt my feelings, but always seek reconciliation. I think that has been the biggest game changer for us, where mm-hmm. we don't mull over things for like a couple days. If anything, it's like an hour. We can even less. Gosh, Jesse's incredible. She rebounds so fast. Me, on the other hand, I can just do. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious. So who apologizes first usually?
Man, good question. It depends. I mean, dude, she's phenomenal. I mean, she's like, forgiveness is like, it's harder for men, I think, at times, to just like, you know what? It doesn't matter. That argument doesn't matter, like, to seek forgiveness. But like, once you do those steps towards reconciliation, all that melts away. All that fear, you're back on the same page. You're back. I mean, I feel that. I've experienced that time and time again. But man, to answer your question, it's been me a lot of times. It's her. She's so great to be like, I've already moved on and this is great. I've already forgiven you, but I can tell you still need a little more time. And she's phenomenal at that. And she can read well.
That's how J-Bomb is too. She's usually the first one. But I think to your point, like, pride is my biggest sin, bro.
Yeah.
Like I told you I was at a business builder this last weekend. The entire time people are sharing, I'm like, yeah, we do that. Like, we do that better. Or, like, in my mind, yep. It's my biggest sin is my pride. So, but I do love, like, you talk about reconciliation. You don't say that, right? Like we're going to reconcile.
Right.
But I do, does Jessie say this where she's like, hey, we got to figure this out. Like, are we good? How do we get good again? And I love that conversation.
Well, man, and I think that what I love about these episodes is hopefully people will pull some stuff away, but you know, even what you guys do, hey, that was a bad hour, that was a bad, that's so practical to not blanket over something with you and I is not working out. It's easy to jump to that conclusion. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't been able to figure this issue out with whatever that could be. Going to where the kids are going to school, or are they going to do more of what my family did, or more traditions of yours, or how are we going to blend that together? There's this tension. There's this constant tension. So we're not going to just figure it out. We're not compatible. It's so easy for people to always have that tension and not to resolve it. And so, as we're kind of finishing up here, so how do we combat some of these lies? What do you do? What are some practical ways that you felt like I've been successful in winning against these lies that are constantly coming at me?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. One of the things that I've done a lot is just getting into the Word, um, and then having people around you that do champion you, right? That really, I mean, you're not always going to find right away, but finding a Paul, and if you don't have a Paul, find a Paul, guys. Like you need someone I encourage you. That's what my mentor is much older than me. So he said he was like late 60s. He said, find someone 10 years ahead of you and go talk to them, Kendall. That's what you need to do. And that person's been a great resource for me. And he always champions me. And even the fact of like how I interact with the kids and playing, and I shared that with you privately. But yeah, so I think having that and then digging into the Word, like be reading your Bible, that Bible plan I was doing with my cousin, it doesn't have to be a heavy lift. You don't have to hit every point.
Yeah.
But it was like a month ago, we were in Exodus and we were reading through Job, and we both love Job. And he was like, you should be reading the Exodus story too. It's so cool. The story of Moses. And I was like, yeah, I didn't get into it that once. I was doing Job, but because of him talking me through it, I jumped in the story of Moses, and God using Moses, like, why couldn't he use me? So combating these lies, I come back to it. It's like, yeah, no, Jesus is, I told you earlier in the podcast, like he has built me for the pain of people, like God has built us for a relationship. And so I'm here for it, and it's not going to be pretty, and I'm going to have to get over myself and my pride a lot. So it's asking for a lot of forgiveness. But yeah, I think for me, it's been digging into the Word and then having the people around me, a network. So, and that can be hard at times too. I have a friend and mentor that, I'm just kind of sharing through this with you. We were sitting together, and he runs a Fortune 500 company here in Albuquerque. And we were sitting together, and I was like, well, if things didn't work out at my company, I'd love to be able to come work for you. And I know I couldn't do that right now. And he said, why do you think you couldn't work for me? And I was like, dude, I'm not qualified. Like, you're a real business person. I just kind of stumbled into this, And he's like, what, dude, what are you talking about? Like, God has made you for people. You have a unique skill set. So having people being able to name that about you. So, and I think it starts with being vulnerable with people. So,
Yeah, that's so good.
Being open to that, it's that vulnerability and control.
Let me zoom in on something you said I thought was super cool.
Yeah.
You were built for the pain of other people. What does that look like? And you shared a little bit about that, but what does that look like for you? Is there anything else you'd want to share there?
Yeah. So whether I've said this to people before, where I believe that if I work for an organization, whether it's Visiting Angels, some Fortune 500, I would look for the people. I would seek out the people that I felt were in like the most pain, and how do I be with those people, and how do I help them create a flourishing life, and what does that look like for them? And I think that a lot of people are in pain. We all have stories. So I think the people that are higher up in organizations, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this, that we're really good at hiding our pain.
Yeah.
So I start with, the guy that's working the door, and it just starts with a few conversations and being real and being vulnerable and finding out that he's got a daughter and his daughter's got an addiction, and the daughter with addiction has a daughter, and that daughter's in foster care. So it just starts with that, and then meeting those people where they're at. I'm like, hey, how can I pray for you? What do you need? So even going as far as like, hey, what, like with my team, like, hey, what are we praying for you about? Like, what's going on? And following up, I feel like God's called me to that pain. Does that mean I have broader shoulders to carry it? No, it doesn't mean that. But God's given me the energy and the endurance right now in this season of life to be with people in pain.
So good, man. And I love your heart. I love that you're in that space, because it's such a need, and where you're at in Albuquerque is such a need. And gosh, people are lucky to have you. And it's fun. Yeah, I mean, this has been a good episode, and I'm glad that you shared that as well. Just a little bit about your background, but for those listening, I mean, we all deal with this. We all deal with this, imposter syndrome that we keep referencing, and so our identity should be rooted in Christ. And for those that are maybe on the fence, or one day we'll go to church, but Monday live completely different. Hey, I'm not on a soapbox to tell you what to do at all. I've just found in my life that when I root myself, my identity in Jesus, that things do seem to be less magnified. Things do seem to be better. And I seem to be more balanced and rooted in who I am, because I deal with that all the time, that I'm not good enough, or that I am an imposter. And people are going to find me out. People are going to go, hey, you don't have what it takes. And someone else should be in your position. And so, yeah, if anyone's listening, I think that's such a great place to start. So, Kendall, man, thank you for joining the show. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Bro, go get a skate in, and then let's get to Israel sooner than later.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thanks.
Later, Josh.